the Persian Tech Network, in collaboration with SUTA Northern California, is holding this special event to celebrate life and legacy of Maryam Mirzakhani. As you may know, SUTA Northern California is a chapter of the Sharif University of Technology Alumni Association, and in a non-profit registered in California. Its mission is to enhance professional, academic, and social connections among members, linking the Sharif community with non-Sharif community around the world through knowledge sharing, collaboration, mentorship, networking, and community engagement. Today, we won't have any startup presentations. Instead, we have a special guest joining us for a panel discussion to review Maryam's life and legacy and her accomplishments. So without any further ado, I'd like to invite Madison, the CEO and co-founder at DeepCell, our moderator today, to come up and take the stage. And I hope you enjoy the event. And thank you again for being here tonight. Please join me in welcoming Madison to come up and take the stage. Thank you. And you have
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, all right. Well, thanks for joining us this evening. I also want to welcome Dr. Tabesh and Dr. Torkaman on the stage as our panelists. Awesome. All right. Do you want some water? Water? You're okay. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us this evening as we remember Maryam Mirzakhani. Some people's lives feel less like biographies and more like stories that we carry with ourselves forever. Maryam Mirzakhani was one of those people for me. She went to the same high school and university as me, crossed the same ocean, and showed women like me what was possible to achieve in this world. What made her extraordinary was not just her scientific and mathematical achievements, but the way that she saw the world. She saw mathematics through stories, imagination, and discoveries. She made brilliance feel human, humble, quiet, and deeply authentic. I think about Maryam often as a scientist who understands the long stretches of nothing with no progress, and as a mother who feels the weight of her final years at the pinnacle of her career, yet facing the illness and raising a child that she cared for and loved deeply. Maryam left behind way more than theorems. She changed how girls see themselves. She changed how parents and what parents imagine for their daughters, and how the world views brilliance. Tonight is about remembering a person whose life continues to inspire courage, creativity, and perseverance. Maryam was deeply interested and believed in stories, and hers is one that we carry with us for a long time. Tonight, I'm joined by two amazing individuals, Dr. Tabesh and Dr. Tina Torkaman, to celebrate her life and remember her legacy. I want you to welcome our two panelists. Dr. Yahya Tabesh is a mathematician and an educator. He spent his career at the intersection of mathematics, computer science, and education. He served as a faculty member at Sharif University of Technology since 1988. She served multiple different roles, leadership roles. She was the head of the Department of Mathematics at the university. He was the director of the Computing Center and the director of Math Olympiad. And he overlapped with Maryam for quite a few years during her progression to what became her life story. In 2010, Dr. Tabesh received the prestigious Erdős Award which is one of the biggest honors in mathematical education, given for sustained and distinguished contribution to the field. He knew Maryam personally, and tonight he joins us to share some of those memories. Dr. Tina Turkman is a mathematician working at the frontier of what Maryam was actually working on, and the field that she defined. Her research focuses on geometry and dynamics of hyperbolic surfaces and the moduli space, the very topic that earned Maryam the Fields Medal and became, was the heart of her most celebrated work. Tina is a silver medalist at the International Mathematics Olympiad in 2013. She went on to Sharif. She earned her doctorate at Harvard University under Professor Curtin McMullen, who was also Maryam's PhD advisor. She is currently an Ellie Dixon instructor at the University of Chicago, which is one of the most prestigious early career positions in the field. Truly, her path from Iran to Sharif to Harvard through Olympiads echoes Maryam's in many, many different ways, and it makes it so meaningful to have her here tonight to talk to us about her legacy. So this memoir is organized in 3 parts: Maryam as a person, a mathematician, and the legacy that she left behind. We're going to watch short sections of the video, The Secrets of the Surface, and then we'll come back to the panelists to ask them questions so we can learn more about Maryam and who she was and what she brought to the world. Let's watch.
I wasn't very good at math. Even, in middle school, 1 year, I didn't even do well in math because I was basically not very interested. I was mostly interested in reading novels and books when I was younger, and I even remember the time that I would every night tell myself some stories, and night after night I'll continue the story. I thought one day I'll become a writer.
She would just lock herself up in her room and get like a big bowl of apples and just eat those apples one by one and read books like the whole afternoon.
یادم سال اول راهنمایی همون هفته‌های اول که ما مدرسه اومده بودیم مریم تاریخ تولد همه بچه‌های کلاس رو پرسیده بود، کل بچه‌های کلاس رو، و روز تولد هر کدوم برای ما یه کتاب کادو گرفته بود.
Mariam had 2 brothers, Arash and Ali. Arash was actually the one who maybe started her interest in mathematics.
Students from all the different school districts of Tehran would take an entrance exam, and then the top maybe 90 or 100 of them would get in. Mariam and I met in 1988. We had just started middle school, and we became close friends quickly. And we continued to share a desk for the next 7 years, middle school and high school.
از زمانی که به خصوص مریم و رویا بهشتی با هم افتادن و با هم تیم شدن، برای بعضی که سالایی که خیلی سطح بالاتر از کلاس بود که اینا رو به اصطلاح وادار کنیم به اینکه همدیگر رو همپوشانی کنن.
Math teacher was returning our test to us, and Mariam got her test back and she had a score of 16 out of 20. She was unhappy and she said, that's it for me. I'm not going to even try to do better. But things changed. When we went to the 7th grade, she started to do very well.
She made a point to solve any problem in hand from several different ways. It was even a joke that Maryam has solved this problem by 4 different ways.
We had a geometry teacher, Mr. Nusha, and he always talked about this other school he taught at, and these 2 girls who were brilliant there, and that we should all learn something from them. Those were Maryam and Roya. Almost every week in our class, he was talking about what they had been up to and how fast they had solved the problem.
It was always very motivating to try to compete with the boys.
What made her so successful was her hard work, the fact that she was very focused on her studies and her research, and she practiced a lot. Practice.
Maryam, to me, was a child prodigy. She was not recognized as this, even by her parents, by her teacher. But since she did very excellent mathematics when she was young, this is the first definition of being a child prodigy.
One way for attracting young people to mathematics is having the competitions. So we started mathematics competitions in Isfahan in 1983. And many students came to mathematics because of these competitions.
We would hear about the students who had done well in those competitions, so it was always very exciting to try to guess how we would, do compared to them.
We went to the principal of our school and demanded that we wanted to participate in this competition, and she was very supportive, and we did participate that year in the national round of the competition, and there were no girls in the national team before us.
یه نامه از دانشگاه شریف دریافت کردم که یه دوره تابستونی رو برای بچه‌های دوم دبیرستان من تماس گرفتم با دانشگاه شریف و گفتم من میخوام 2 تا از بچه‌های سال اولمو بفرستم. خب نپذیرفتن اول، ولی چون خودم فارغ التحصیل شریف بودم سعی کردم با ارتباطاتی که برقرار میکنم و قبول کنن که من این 2 تا رو بفرستم و موفق شدم، قبول کردن.
We participated in that workshop after we finished 9th grade. But that was the first time that we were mixed with boys.
I gave them a lot of problems that I found from different sources. One of these problems that I didn't know how to solve, she kind of wrote down a solution and she gave it to me. So I had to go pick up a textbook on complex analysis and read it to just learn the terms that she was using and then see the lemmas that she's using are actually correct. So I had to learn the basics of complex analysis to be able to understand her proof.
In that program, I used to give 2 lectures about every year, and I used to introduce them some open problems.
About Mahmoudian brought to the attention of the students a problem sets, and it was a good problem in graph theory and combinatorics. Maryam proved the general case, and they published it. This was the first paper that Maryam published.
Roya and Maryam were the first female students who got entered on the list of Olympiad entries for the international team.
When we participated in the IMO, it was in 1994 in Hong Kong. Maryam got a gold medal. She got 40 out of 42, and I got a silver medal.
I think it showed me somehow the beauty of math because I got excited about it, maybe just as a challenge. But then I realized that it's really nice and that I enjoy it. So it gave me the opportunity to think more about some math problems.
It was 95. Olympiad was held in Canada. She received gold, and this time it was full mark, 42 out of 42.
She came back downplaying her achievement. She said that it was the only year that it was so easy to get a full score.
At that time, there was only 3 people who had achieved this full mark at the IMO from Iran. And so in our eyes, she was some kind of hero and champion.
She became well known. Her picture was in the papers. More women came into mathematics after that.
Maryam was like a superstar in any home at that time. Being a girl and having earned a gold medal at Olympiad was very inspiring and very heartwarming for all the students back home and me as well, knowing that it's not impossible.
Women in Iran are not a privileged group, so they have to try to find a better social situation by entering into art, in science. To belong to a disadvantaged group has this advantage that you are forced to work hard.
Maryam, after finishing school, she decided to go to Sharif University.
As members of the Iranian Olympiad teams, we did not have to take the entrance exam. We could choose anything that we wanted to do in college.
Her first choice was to come to the Department of Mathematical Sciences of Sharif University of Technology.
We attended the university from 95 to 99. The chair of the department was Professor Tabesh, and we got a lot of support from him.
We made a center of excellence. Let them grow up by their own pace, not control them, not push them. Early in the morning, they gathered in a circle in front of the math department, talking mathematically with each other. Roya was there, Mariam was there.
We played a lot of soccer. Mariam always said she wants to come play. The only girl who actually ever did. She came up and argued with the person to let her in and play the game.
She became also a member of the Olympiad committee, and she was a trainer of the new Olympiad.
Her papers were published when she was an undergrad. Pretty funny story is that she was asked to referee somebody else's grant proposal when she was an undergrad because she was already building a reputation based on her results.
و اینکه یک کتاب نوشت به خانم بهشتی که دوستشون بود، بازم کتابی که هنوز برای بچه المپیادی خوبه.
It has both the beautiful problems of mathematical Olympiad and the deep mathematical theorems that you can find in university books.
Before she writes this, there was no resource for the students to study, and she wrote something very complete and whole for students who want to learn Math Olympiad. After many years, we still use it, we still learn from it.
We went to Ahvaz in south of Iran to participate in this student conference.
About 40 students, they went to City Ahvaz in southern part of Iran with a bus. They had the conference and they had the contest. Mariam became the first in the contest.
We left Ahvaz right before midnight. It was rainy, and on the way back, the bus went off the road and it fell down in a river. And several of our friends were killed.
In the darkness, the driver didn't recognize the road properly. Therefore, the bus crashed, dived in the big valley. And 7 of the students died instantly.
Mariam was in the bus, Roya was in the bus. Roya got needed some surgery.
So I spent a couple of nights in the hospital there. My liver was damaged, so there was a surgery. And there were 2 other people, Kia and Iman.
People will come and visit and see how I am doing, and Mariam was one of them. And she became very emotional, and I had no concept of why. Only later I realized that she had assumed that I had passed away.
دوست داشتیم سریع بدونیم که چه اتفاق افتاده. خیلی لحظات سختی بود. من تا تهران گریه می‌کردم. چون که واقعا تعدادی از بهترین دوستای ما توی اون اتفاق فوت شده بودن.
This was a great loss to our science committee.
Professor Shahshahani suggested that in order to increase the chances of all of us getting admitted to good universities, we should each choose a school to which the others would not apply. Mariam chose Harvard and I chose MIT because we wanted to be close to each other.
In the fall of 1999, I got a phone call from Professor Joe Harris. He was part of the admissions committee for the math department for the grad school. And he was calling me to ask me if I know anything about Maryam Mirzakhani, who had applied for admission to Harvard Grad School.
Kamran Wafa, he called me and he said, were you serious about this letter of recommendation? Because they're considering giving her, admission.
He told me that we should expect great things from her. And so I was kind of surprised by the certainty.
Mariam went to Harvard, Roya went to MIT, so they were both in Boston, and Mariam's and Roya's friendship continued in Boston.
I never felt even, homesick the first year I was there because there were so many good friends there.
There was the Iranian studies group that we had started, and we set up seminars and talks and then some movie nights.
I went to her house to help her cook. She was making biryani, some Iranian rice dish where you burn the bottom of the rice a little bit. So she was very busy into that. She put on some music, started dancing around while she was stirring the rice. She was a little bit reserved, even though we were some of the closest friends of hers in graduate school. I'm not sure that she ever opened up to us about her political beliefs or religious beliefs.
Well, thanks for watching. What an incredible story, moving story. I remember those days. She was an icon, and we all followed her work, her competitions. Everybody was talking about Mariam. She was a believer in stories. What an incredible story her life was. So I want to turn to the panel and ask Dr. Tabish, when you first met Mariam, was there something that immediately caught your attention that, like, this is special?
Hello, everyone. My pleasure being here and talking with Madison and all of you, seeing you, all of you. Well, I met Mariam first time when she was 15. We organized this, we say summer camp, math summer camp at Department of Mathematical Sciences at Sharif University of Technology. And we had the idea that we should bring out some talented students in this summer camp and encourage them to come to math and computer. We met Mariam. I met Mariam for the first time at this summer camp. She was underage, and she came over there with other people, and yeah, from the first impression was that she is very out of the box. And always I can say this is the most important thing. And later on in Olympiad, she joined. After that, I was also working with them in Math Olympiad in Iran. I met her, and of course she was extraordinary in about problem solving and things like this. And her achievements in Olympiads and what got in the 2 gold medals was, of course, a good achievement. Later on, she joined the math department as an undergraduate student, and much more we were involved. And
yeah. So immediately you saw that she thinks out of the
box. Immediately I found that someone different. We have someone different and out of the box. And later, in the summer camp, it was just not a, what you would say, after a school program. It was some sort of, just wanted to bring of joy of mathematics, joy of problem solving for the students participant. And as I mentioned also in the presentation of Dr. Mahmoudian, late Dr. Mahmoudian, remember him also. He was one of our colleagues that had a class with these students and brought ideas of some discrete mathematics and graph theory, and later on worked with Mariam, and she solved one of the unsolved problems that they had just one example out of an idea. She solved the general case and published the first paper jointly with Dr. Mahmoudian when she was in high school.
Wow. Wow.
So from the first impression was that someone different is here, and
Of course. Fantastic. Dinajan, when did you first hear about Mariam, and what was the first time that you think she influenced your career and your path?
Okay, hello everyone, thank you for the invitation. If I remember correctly, I was in the 5th grade of elementary school. One day, my sister, who is 6 years older than me, she came home. She was very excited. She heard about Mariam and Roya, and she told us about that. Oh, there are these amazing mathematicians. I say at that time, probably Mariam was about end of her PhD, or she might just finish her PhD. And I remember that night with my family, we were sitting together. We searched her name. We looked at some pictures, some of these stories we found online. For example, that unfortunate trip in their undergrad, and a little bit about the math she did. And I remember that night, I was lying on bed, and for a few hours, I was just amazed by this story, by the math term that we read, and I didn't understand anything about it. I was at 5th grade, but those fancy mathematical terms, like this higher dimension geometry curves, so I was just imagining what are these, and I was very curious. And since then, I remember, so both me and my sister, we were, my sister really loved science, particularly she was very into math, but I remember after that she bought the book showed in documentary, that number theory book of Maryam and Roya, and she got some math Olympiad book, and I remember there was a piece of, she cut a piece of newspaper that was a quote of Maryam. It was, it's not the exact quote, but I remember Maryam in that paragraph explained that doing math is like being lost in a jungle, but after a while you find yourself on top of a mountain and then you see everything clearly. That's the moment I enjoy. So I remember my sister cut that and had that on her library to see that every day.
Incredible.
So
Incredible.
That was it.
Wow. That's the first time I heard it, so thanks for sharing that. Speaking of the books, Dr. Tabesh, so she wrote this book at a young age. What prompted her to do that? What was she trying to do?
It goes back, you know, when in the Olympiad in Iran, our trick was that just the former Olympians just go and teach the current students. When we had a committee that these successful Olympians, they were member of committee and organizing training session for the newcomers, and a lot of Maryam was among this committee, and we worked closely together with some other also former Olympians. And mostly, I have to say, I remember a lot of things. We had a lot of communication about this Olympiad, things like this. And somehow, always in the to design new problems for the next exam, it was always a disaster things, and always the last night before the exam, we were together to design new problems and choose the problems for the tomorrow exam or in a few days exam test. And in this discussion also, I found Maryam very sharp, how had getting an idea and develop it and generalize it and make it a good problem out of a simple idea. But in this relation between this Olympiad committee, we found a point that some, the lecture notes of the Olympiad training session was in the hand of some special schools in Tehran. And we thought that maybe a series of the Olympiad books can bring more, I would say, more possibility, more course material, more training materials for the students around the nationwide. This was the how we thought that go and organize this series of the Olympiad books, and one of them we assigned to Maryam and Roya, and they did excellent job. You know, those I have to say, those boys, they were not so focused, but Maryam was focused. Whenever wants to do something, she had to do it in the best way, and they did really nice job for this book. Tina can say also.
Yeah. Looks like that's one of the first.
Yeah, that book actually, at the time that we also studied for Olympiad, was one of the classic resources for number theory, but it was one of the most advanced ones. So usually it wasn't a book recommended for beginning. Right? But usually it was, after you learn everything, so the book was good for learning more advanced topic, and it was full of very good problems. Yes.
Fantastic. We saw in some part of the movie the front of the mathematics department, that circle. What was the vibe? How was her interactions with the friends and colleagues? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, in this circle, or they say Gerdi, in front of the Department of Mathematical Sciences, it was a certain circle for these extracurricular activities for the students. Early morning, these talented guys, we had this opportunity that in a period, a lot of good students as I said, it was really our department became a center of excellence because of very, very good students that we had. In early morning, they gathered in the Gerdi, in the circle in front of the math department. And I believe peer-to-peer learning happened through this collaboration in the early mornings. Was so important, so impactful for all of them. I remember I would say, they found some problems and talking about new problems all together. And I remember Mariam was the person that if had idea, never just touch it, go to the end to make it all the problems that they will be assigned between each other that mostly people touch it and say, okay, so and so and so, it is clear. Right. But Mariam was the person that goes to the end, writing down everything and make a complete proof. And as I said, this Gerdi was very, very special for the collaboration and peer-to-peer learning for them.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, one of the things that caught my attention in the movie was also, the fact that she would practice a lot and do a lot of work and finish the work and complete it in a way that, maybe some assignments to everybody else in the group became a book that became so popular for other students to follow her steps. That definitely came through the interviews that I saw. Tina Jan, you share some of the same paths with Mariam, from Iran as a woman, mathematician, going perhaps through the same journey. Where do you see your path similar to her? Where do you see your path influenced by her? Other than, of course, the beginning of it, which was so interesting.
So one thing I should maybe mention is that this path wasn't clear for me it wasn't like from beginning I had a clear perspective of that's what I want to do. But from beginning I genuinely loved the idea of becoming a mathematician. And it was very scary to me, especially when you love something a lot, it becomes more scary for you. So a story of Mariam to me was like a source of light that, it's possible. And also, so she showed that what are the steps. So for example, even the school Farzanegan, so for the interview in the last round of exam for entering the school, there is an in-person interview. And they asked me that, how have you heard about Farzanegan? And I remember I told them, that they asked me, do you have any relatives who studied here before? I said, no, I know that from Mariam Mirzakhani. So Farzanegan, and there is something called Math Olympiad, and later, for example, Sharif, in Iran, so we know there is some classic ranking between major, and maybe it's more common people go to engineering, but I knew that, so maybe math at Sharif is not the toughest one, but we knew that, there were amazing people who studied in that department, and after that they end up at MIT, Harvard, great places. So all these things, especially before leaving Iran, I should say that, I mostly knew through Mariam's story.
How incredible. All right, so we go to the second part of this memoir, which is about Mariam as a mathematician, what she achieved and how she changed the field, and then finally the Fields Medal. So let's watch a few minutes of the movie again.
This point here is not prime, because if I try to draw... I first met Mariam in my research seminar. A lot of times graduate students gave presentations, so it was really like an open classroom.
She started working with Kurt McMullen in her second year. She was a little bit frustrated that the problem that she had started working on, she couldn't solve it.
It wasn't quite working, and I thought that I had a good way of doing it, but I found that actually what I was doing was completely wrong.
It was only probably a couple of months that she was thinking and not going anywhere. She was unhappy.
She wasn't quite sure that McMullen, her advisor, was paying enough attention to her.
So I suggested she give a talk on this curious formula of McShane, and she gave a very beautiful presentation. She would always arrive at my office with a long list of questions and describe these speculative mathematical scenarios. We would just spend our time kind of musing about whether or not these things make sense and how you might approach them. When she computed these volumes, she got some simple-looking polynomials with pi's and rational numbers in them, and there was an interpretation she could give to these numbers and to the recursive formulas she found for them, which led to a new proof of a famous result in string theory or mathematical physics that was originally called Witten's conjecture.
Maxim Concierge, who gave the other proof of Witten, at some point told me that he believed that Maryam's proof of this conjecture was perhaps more elegant than his. So this shows that even though it was not the first proof of this conjecture, it was a very elegant proof.
Those 3 papers that made up her thesis were published in the 3 top journals in mathematics, which is an incredibly rare achievement for a grad student to make it in any one of those journals.
People are different and there are different styles of doing math, but if you want to get a reasonable, good idea, you have to really spend a lot of time just thinking patiently and not getting disappointed somehow, coming back to the same problem and staying somehow confident that maybe one day you will have a good idea.
She was extremely focused, and I think she had this attitude that when she was trying to solve a problem, that I can do it, I'm going to solve it.
Whenever she saw an obstacle, that was just a puzzle that you had to go around or over. Like, she didn't really take obstacles too seriously, I think.
Rather than asking questions, she would start describing sort of elaborate stories or mathematical narratives. And these narratives were very ambitious and speculative. They were almost like science fiction. She could make these very vague speculations about the shape of the unknown mathematical frontier, quite elaborate and detailed, and imagining how things might fit together. And she was very adept at finding the right question. And I think this came from this sort of speculative intuition that she had. She would sort of think ahead as to what the shape of the theory might be that was yet to be discovered.
Maybe a couple of months after she had met Jan, she told me that, I have been going out with this guy, and
She has met this tall Czech man who's a student as well. Not a lot of detail. Mariam didn't share a lot of details.
She was graduating in 2004, and we met in the fall of 2003. She looked very modest, normal girl. She didn't talk about her work at all. At first, I had no idea that she was so accomplished. I knew that she was a PhD student at Harvard.
They kind of held hands at the corner of the room, and I was like, oh, this is new. This wasn't happening as far as I knew. The fact that Maryam started dating a non-Iranian was kind of breaking several boundaries in our community. It was beautiful that Maryam didn't have those barriers as much internalized.
We went into the mountains, they got married there, we hiked back, and we cooked. That was the wedding meal, was salmon with peach and mango.
my impression was that Maryam and Jan were very happy together.
We got wind of her thesis and her achievements at Princeton and quickly realized this is somebody we have to recruit.
She got a very prestigious postdoc position, the Clay Fellowship, and she decided to go to Princeton with it.
So I first met her at Princeton when she was a postdoc and I was a visitor at the Institute of Advanced Study. We just hit it off right away. I really enjoyed talking to her. We started collaborating. She was absolutely amazingly brilliant, obviously. She was very young. She already had quite a bit of success, but somehow it didn't quite go to her head. She was still the nicest person I've ever met.
Actually, before she left Princeton, we had already promoted her to tenure for various reasons, the usual two-body problem. She moved to Stanford, where they made her a permanent offer.
Her teaching load was reduced for some time. She had quite a lot of freedom. So we had a very good time at the beginning in California.
The most satisfactory part of the teaching for me comes from discussing things with students outside of the classroom, more than covering a certain material during the lecture. If you talk to younger mathematicians, it's very exciting because they are more optimistic about things. They don't know all the technical difficulties necessarily, so they're more open and they are more willing to try new directions.
It's unquestionably the best part of the job to find somebody that you can connect with and have them explain their ideas to you and be surprised and happy at their ideas and try to explain your ideas to them. Yeah, I mean, she was the best part of Stanford for me.
So basically these angles are the same, and then it hits here, and the same, and it goes on and on.
In the middle of, explaining something, she suddenly would get too excited and then lose track of what she had been talking about. She would jump to something without defining things.
When she was trying to describe some mathematical idea that she was grappling with, she would make these large hand gestures. She was very animated. She had these beautiful blue eyes, and you would see a light in them when she was excited about some mathematical thought that she was having.
She had this catchphrase, like, how can it be? If something had to be true, she'd be like, how can it be that this isn't true? How can it be? How can it be that this particular thing doesn't work? And it's just this phrase that she used, and then we'd work through it and be like, oh, okay, this is the thing to think about.
She bought these large format notepads and she started using them mostly on the floor. I think this is all about distributions of closed geodesics. You can see some surfaces here with holes, some hyperbolic surface. But certainly what you can see here is not the full complexity of the problem that she was thinking about. The full thing was only in her head.
One of her main achievements, which was recognized in her Fields Medal, was she solved a problem called Ratner's theorem for moduli space. And she did this working with two other mathematicians, Eskin and Mohammadi. I was lucky enough to make the first breakthrough on this problem by showing that it was true for surfaces with two handles, surfaces of genus 2. And I remember Miriam coming to my office one day and saying, well, why did you just do genus 2? And I sort of, it was sort of like saying, why did you just climb Mount Everest? Why didn't you climb all the mountains in the Himalayas?
Trying to prove a theorem is like trying to climb a mountain which nobody has ever climbed. So we're climbing up this mountain, and at some point we thought that we were kind of slowly going up, and at some point we kind of felt we could see the top. But then there is this ravine in front, and then there was a difficulty we really couldn't overcome. It was a little bit discouraging. We basically sank 2 years of immense effort. It was a bit depressing, and she stayed very positive, but somehow, yeah, it was like, I have no idea. Do you? No, I have no ideas.
At some point, they made an announcement that they solved the problem, and they used some result which contained a typo. And this typo was dramatic because part of the proof just evaporated.
There was about a year and a half where we had making absolutely no progress. Until the very end, we were not sure we had it. We really didn't know if the whole project could even be done. So it was an incredibly intense experience. And I mean, Miriam was just absolutely amazing, both in terms of mathematics, but also I think there was just a lot of kind of mental stability aspect, which is necessary for this kind of work, and she was amazing at that as well.
Sometimes you would see she was happy, like she said, oh, I have this idea and I hope it's correct. Actually, let me not think about it for a few hours before I discover that it was wrong, but I want to enjoy the feeling that it might be correct.
Good mathematicians have the courage to imagine that they can solve a problem and to imagine an answer. Having the insight or faith that the solution can be figured out is really very important. Certainly, I think our personality was ideally suited to thinking about problems for a really long time and persevering on them.
We climbed all the way down to the bottom of the mountain, and then we found another approach, going up the other side. And it took us maybe another 2 or 3 years to actually get the thing done.
So what Mirzakhani and her collaborators did was they essentially climbed all the mountains. They proved this theorem not just for a torus with 2 handles, but a torus with any number of handles. And the theorem they proved was so powerful that mathematicians started calling it the magic wand theorem.
It's a huge breakthrough. A bunch of problems that you could not even approach, you couldn't solve at all, you couldn't even think about them, you can now solve just by applying this theorem.
This work of Mirzakhani and Diskin is the central achievement in Teichmuller dynamics, and everything that's happening in the field, you see, her work is cited almost instantly in a lecture.
We had a happy life. It was not all about math. We liked music, we liked sports, we traveled together. It was, in many ways, a very normal life.
She was so friendly, and she just instantly was like peppering me with questions about how you manage life as a parent and as a mathematician.
She was very much devoted to Anahita, and family in general meant very much to her.
Maryam had a lot of things happen in her life. She got pregnant, she had a baby, and then in the final stages, like once we already, I think, gotten over the main hump, she was actually diagnosed with cancer.
Sadly, Mariam got sick just before Anahita turned 2. She was diagnosed with breast cancer, and then the sequence of treatments, surgeries. If she had to choose between doing her job on a given day and doing something important for Anahita, she would actually pick Anahita.
She has stayed very positive. After her treatments, we thought that she was completely recovered. She has started to again focus on work.
I think right after her thesis, everybody was saying that this person should win a Fields Medal.
She was among the most outstanding young mathematicians we were considering, and it's clear from the outcome she did make the final very short list.
We have our 4th Fields Medalist, Mariam Mirzakhani, for her outstanding contributions to the dynamics and geometry of Riemann surfaces and their moduli spaces.
It was fantastic that Miriam was awarded the Fields Medal and became the first woman to be so recognized. So it was a great moment when she actually was able to attend the ceremony, receive the Fields Medal from the President of Korea. And she brought her family with her, Jan and Anahita, and they were sitting in the front row when I was giving the laudation.
I think mathematics is, in my opinion, necessary for all the advancements in sciences and technology.
Wow, what a breakthrough, what achievements. Dr. Tabesh, she approached mathematics as like a storyteller. The elaborate stories Kurt McMillan was talking about, the drawings. How rare is that? I think you've seen a lot of mathematicians, you've worked with a lot of them. How frequently have you seen this type of approach?
Well, I have to say any mathematicians may have different approach or different how they may work together about working on a problem. But the most important thing is intuition. Tina can say more about these things. When you get an intuition about some subjects, then you can go inside it and surf it and find out some sort of advanced things and innovative ideas. Surfing in when you get some intuition about some subject, surfing inside this intuition always is like that you are acting or you are developing a story. Mariam had this, was talking about this, that thinking about the objects of her theorems or the some characters. She plays with them, she works with them. And of course, in storytelling, I believe is somehow very good discipline for developing mindset. now I don't want to come out of the talking about Maryam, but of course this kind of the imagination and making an imagination and surfing and have some characters such as storytelling always is a very good approach to develop your intuition, I believe.
That's true. Tina Jones, so she thought slowly and deeply. She didn't really jump to answers too frequently. How rare is that? And do you think the academic system rewards that type of approach, or not so much?
So one thing is, so I don't know why, maybe part of this movie she mentioned I'm very slow in like learning or building a problem. So one thing about Mariam is she was very modest, so I don't think that question actually applied to her. I heard from some of her colleagues in Iran that they say Mariam brain worked like a jet. So actually she was very fast, but in general, speaking in math, we have two types of mathematicians. Some are very good at building a theory, dealing with abstract stuff, and like maybe for a long time, as you said, slowly approaching a problem, understanding the related topic. On the other side, we have mathematicians who are very good at problem solving or coming with a trick or like a creative trick sometimes. So, and we see that, so in something like Olympiad or competition, you need the second skill. You need to be fast, like tricky. But for as a mathematician, which is a long-term, path, and it's not a limited time, you see that many great mathematicians on both sides. Some are more slow and theory builder kind of, and some are good problem solver. Mariam has both. That's one thing actually rare and special about her. She has both the history of being gold medalist at IMO and very good at problem solving, and also very good at understand deeply abstract and advanced theories.
Interesting. Dr. Tabish, so 2.5 years of no progress and the typo and the setbacks. I think it takes a special person to not change problems, right? Because that typically, happens in the PhD world. You hit a setback, you're advised to switch or whatever. What does that tell us about her?
Yeah, I may say Mariam character. I have to say she was very hardworking. I have to say she was very, very hardworking. These excellent achievements had happened just like this. Very, very hardworking she was. And she was focused, very focused. And she had the character that never stop, never stop at one. And her ambition about this problem solving and things like this was the reason that she didn't want to accept that should stop. And she was.
How could it be?
She self-confidence that finally will find their solution, but hard working, to be patient and find out step by step the aha moments, the beauty of mathematics, that step by step that you can find it out of the hard working and being focused on such a thing is important.
And I think that shows her love for mathematics, right?
Absolutely.
Why would she give up? She's just like
passion
in this world, like trying to walk through this jungle and find a mountain, and I think she was just enjoying that. So Tina Jan, can you tell us a little bit about the magic wand theorem? Why did they give it that name?
They already mentioned a little bit about magic wand theorem in the documentary. So first thing I should mention, there are three names behind this theorem. Usually in math we call them Eskin Mirzakhani Mohammadi. Later with Mohammadi also they work on that. I mentioned that because Amir Mohammadi he's also a great mathematician. He's now faculty at Berkeley. And Eskin Mirzakhani that they showed in the documentary. So this great theorem, one of the greatest breakthrough in the field, happened after Mariam got filled. So Mariam got filled for other the project she already done, and then after that she did this great work. And later, unfortunately, after Mariam passed away, Eskin received a breakthrough prize for the theorem. So if Mariam was alive, so also part of that breakthrough prize was for Mariam. That's one thing, and as Kasra in the movie mentioned, people call it Magic Wand theorem because there have been many open problems in the field, and there have been some progress in the special cases, and even special cases they consider very advanced, they publish in advanced journal. One of them was Kurt McMullen mentioned, it was, so even special cases, fields medalists work on that, and Mariam and Eskin prove in Magic Wand theorem, they prove something that it was like a wand that does magic. Wow. They just it answer all cases, and you can apply it to all these open problems like a magic, and it was solved. That's why it was. They proved something very for general, all cases, all genus. So that's why it was one of the most amazing results in recent years.
And she didn't even receive the field medal for that.
Yeah, it was after her Fields Medal, so it shows she technically deserved 2 Fields Medals.
So now that we have a mathematician in house, I always have seen those drawings and surfaces, and I know she did some amazing work. I don't quite understand what it was. Can you share maybe one of the problems that, that she solved? Maybe in simpler terms that we can all kind of understand.
Yeah, this part of event we want to get a little bit technical. So
do you want this?
Yes, actually. No, that's fine. Just a slide. I can check. It works.
Yes.
Did that go to next?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I prepared some slides that for a general audience. Hopefully, we can understand one of the statement of one of Mariam's result. So the first that I started, what was the main object Mariam, at least in her PhD, what was the main object in math Mariam cared about? So it was, the answer is hyperbolic surfaces. So let's see that first, what are surfaces? So when we say surface, by surface we mean anything two-dimensional. It's like a plane, a cylinder, or a torus. Torus is a name we use for a shape like donut. And I mean the peel of the donut, not the field donut, just the peel, the 2D outside of that. Or you might think about a torus with a higher number of holes instead of one. These are some examples of surfaces. So when we want to talk about surfaces, if we put some reasonable constraint on your surface, for example, you make it finite. You assume that your surface doesn't go to infinity, and you assume that it doesn't have boundary. There is a theorem in topology that say that the overall shape of your surface is one of these. And what do I mean by overall shape? It means if you slightly, without cutting or gluing, you slightly move your surface, you can see that you can transform it to one of these shapes. It's either a sphere or a donut with multiple holes. The number of holes we usually refer to as genus. And by the way, this part of the event, maybe if someone has a question, we might be able to answer some question. So we know that the surface, the overall shape, and when I say overall shape, it means we don't care how fat or thin they are. We mean just the general shape. So we know that, okay, these are the surfaces. It's called classification for surfaces. Now, geometers want to study this. We want to see that how naturally we can understand these surfaces. So let's start from, maybe I should, when we say geometry, in geometry we care about length, angle, area, this kind of concept. From the point of view of geometry, then it matters how specifically the surface look like. For example, this flat plane is not from the point of view of geometry, is not anymore similar to this curvy plane. Although topologically they're the same, but geometrically they're not. or a big sphere, a small sphere, or this bean shape. Topologically, they're the same, but geometrically not. So now we want to see that on these surfaces that I mentioned in previous slide, what natural geometry we can have on them. So let us start with the first one, a sphere. So then the most natural geometry on have on a sphere is what all of us are familiar, is the sphere of radius 1. And usually we refer to that as spherical geometry. For the case of torus, this donut shape, interestingly, we can see that we can have flat geometry. Flat geometry is Euclidean geometry, the one we all learn in high school. So that geometry we learn in high school, it's a geometry of a plane. On torus, we can have that. How? So let's do this game. So start with a rectangle, a piece of paper, and glue the opposite edges. So when you first glue the first opposite edges, you get something like a cylinder. Then glue the other opposite edges. Then you can see that the shape, it becomes something like a torus. So we can see that from a piece of paper, a flat piece of paper, you can obtain a torus. And because on the paper we have flat geometry, in this way you can obtain a flat geometry on the torus. Unfortunately, when you start gluing, you ruin the geometry, so you should a little bit think abstractly. So you should think, if you want to consider the flat geometry, that's why usually we think the word we use, we say we identify edges instead of gluing. Because if you bring it and glue, you have to curve it. You ruin the flatness. That's why instead of gluing, how in math, that step is a little bit abstract maybe. So how we think, we say that instead of gluing, we assume that these points are same, refer to same point. We behave like a same point, the point on opposite edges. So in this way, we have flat geometry on torus, and what left from our list is the one with higher number of genus 2 or higher. There is the natural geometry we have on these one called hyperbolic surfaces, the one that keep appearing in Maryam's work. That's hyperbolic surfaces is the geometry we have on that. So I don't plan to define what is hyperbolic geometry, but I just want to give an intuition. So the word, so here, when we say we have a spherical geometry and flat geometry, one thing nice about them is, one reason make them natural is that these shapes are very symmetric in the sense that at each point the curvature, which is a geometric invariant, is constant. So what is curvature? Curvature is a number we assign to each point that measure how much is curved, the shape you have. In the case of a sphere, the curvature at each point is 1, because at each point it curves the same amount. In the case of Euclidean geometry, flat geometry, the curvature is 0, because there is no curve. In the case of hyperbolic geometry, the definition is it's a geometry that the curvature is -1 at each point. What does it mean? So it means that each point we have something like a saddle. It's like a saddle point. At saddle, so what happened at saddle, if you think about a saddle on a horse, so on one direction it goes up, and one direction it comes down. So that's why the negative sign appears. So hyperbolic geometry, there is no, unfortunately, a better intuitive picture of that. That's part of the abstractness here, but it's a geometry that the curvature is -1 at each point. That's why a very natural way to study surfaces for G2 and higher is through hyperbolic geometry on them. Okay. Now on this, now that assume that we have one of these surfaces, genus 2 or higher. So one important object on them is the curves on them. I draw some curves here. When you have when you have a closed curve in geometry, interested in some class
So in this last part, we're going to see the last bit of the movie about what she left behind, her legacy, and we're going to come back to the panelists for the final
Let me say thank you to Tina for 4 credits geometry course we had to this night. Thank you.
Thank you.
She did talk about some pressure coming from Iran, people that thought that she should now play a very large political role, and she didn't want to play a political role in Iran.
With the amount of attention that she gets, every word has outsized weight. You can't just in passing make a comment about something you like or you don't like. Then different groups will take this and they would, create a cause out of this. She was very aware of these dangers of just putting herself out there, and so she decided not to do that.
When she received the Fields Medal, the parents heard the news from the media rather than from her. And when they asked her, why didn't you tell us about this Fields Medal? She said, I didn't think it was a big deal.
Yes, she didn't like publicity. She didn't even like to let people know when she comes back to Iran. When she used to come to see her family, she didn't like to let other people know.
So a few months after she received the Fields Medal, I heard from her that she's visiting Harvard. And I knew that the Iranian students would have loved to have a big celebration to honor her achievements.
When she came to the gathering for the lunch, everybody was super excited. You had somebody who has always been in your mind since middle school, and finally you are gonna meet her.
She became a symbol of hope for the young generation in Iran in some sense, because she was showing that even coming from times of war and lots of restrictions and limitations, you can do important things. For the Iranian community, I think that was a really proud moment. To this date, I think Maryam is one of the few figures that really unites the whole country.
The fact that she was the first woman to win the Fields Medal, I'm sure that will be an inspiration for more women to come into mathematics and sciences.
I think it will change after some time, but it's not something that would change in 2 or 3 or 5 years. It can take decades, but things like this change, and there are examples of these kind of changes.
Maryam's example shows that the pursuit of knowledge is a borderless, timeless, and yes, genderless adventure. Her example will convince many others who may not have otherwise done so pursue science.
People look at her and see what she accomplished, and girls will look at that and say, that can be me.
I think she's raised the bar for girls, but beside that, she's opened up a new way. She has proved us that it doesn't matter being the first one. You can do anything that you want to, and you put your desire and your effort in.
She was one of us. She was just like us in this school. That helps us to think that why can't we do what she does, and makes us feel very better about what we are.
It is a great honor for me to be here, to have the opportunity today to talk to you about some of the mathematical work of Maryam Mirzakhani. Given a hyperbolic Riemann surface X and a positive number L, how many closed geodesics does X have of length, say, less than or equal to L?
This is part of an international initiative to celebrate May 12th, the birthday of Maryam Mirzakhani, and there are more than 100 different events taking place in over 30 countries in the world, where women are gathered to honor the memory of Maryam Mirzakhani.
Maryam was on the scientific advisory board. MSRI was always very close to her scientific life. She participated in those meetings until she really wasn't able to do it.
In April of 2016, she was diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer. She knew that she didn't have much time left.
She started an experimental treatment in New York, which was quite successful at first.
I thought that She was so decided to overcome the illness. I was sure till the very last moment that she would manage it, that nobody else would manage, but she would manage it.
These are pictures from the last time I visited her. We discussed math, we discussed life, we discussed the cancer, we discussed everything. She was still funny, she was silly, she was goofy. She had a sense of humor about everything. If you look at the picture, you see a person full of life, full of energy. I do miss her all the time. Yes.
Most of what I did for maybe a very long time was essentially collaborate with her, and so now she's gone, and I mean, it's very difficult.
It was just a tremendous loss. I miss that powerful voice that she had. She was just pure good.
I knew her from the time when she was not that famous and she didn't change. She was just a very good person.
When somebody like that appears, it's going to be a national phenomenon. It's going to be something people are really proud of.
Media, all the newspapers, first page, they covered everything about her. They published a stamp in her memory. The Post Company in Iran published a stamp.
She might be the first figure who is shown without a scarf in public memorials in Iran. It shows that even the government has agreed we don't want to distort her image. If she didn't have a scarf, we shouldn't put a scarf on her.
We changed the name of the Hall of Mathematics House to Maryam Mirzakhani. For the young generation, they encouraged to do mathematics, and somehow they may be able to become a person like Maryam Mirzakhani.
A lot of good high schools are trying to initiate Mirzakhani Fellowship, Mirzakhani Scholarship to remind the students of her and to just keep her legacy alive.
People are thinking about her work, and they're discovering that her thoughts can be applied to other problems, and they're rediscovering the beauty in her work.
In 2019, Alex Eskin's collaboration with Mirzakhani on the magic wand theorem earned him the Breakthrough Prize, one of the highest honors in mathematics and science.
The Breakthrough Prize in Mathematics is awarded to Alex Eskin.
I'm extremely honored and humbled to receive the Breakthrough Prize. And I'm deeply in debt to my late co-author, Maryam Mirzakhani. Without her brilliance, strength, and persistence, the work recognized by the prize committee could not have been done.
It's our great honor to announce that beginning next year, the Breakthrough Prize Foundation will establish a new award, Maryam Mirzakhani New Frontiers Prize.
This was certainly the collaboration which I enjoyed the most. Part of it was just her enthusiasm. She just loved mathematics. She loved talking about mathematics. She loved thinking about mathematics. It was just incredibly infectious.
The amazing thing about Maryam is that she was just getting started. This was just the beginning. 10 years of work is nothing for a mathematician. There would have been so much more to come.
She was just getting started. What do you think, Dr. Tabish, she would have done if she had more time?
Well, I am so now went to the good old days with Maryam, and really I am a little bit very, well, let me say a final word maybe. I have to say about Maryam, you know, we all know, she was so humble about everything. You know, even after she received the Fields Medal at Stanford, they wanted to make a celebration for her or for her Fields Medal. She didn't accept. Just a very a small inside department reception, the students and faculty came together. And in the final years, I was also at the Stanford. I used to be with her sometimes, weekly dinner or weekly lunch together. She was always that kind of humanitarian that she had. She was always had the. She was sincerely looking at the society, at the social life of the people, what is happening in our homeland country. And she was always had a good wish for the future. And what she did, she brought the legacy in mathematics and also bring her character, her achievements just impacted many girls around the world. In Iran and around the world, I am sure many girls was impacted by her and showed that how they can be see the just hardworking and be focused and going forward and be successful. These are the most important legacy of Maryam. Her character, her mathematics, be loving the people, loving the life. These are the lessons that I never forget from her, and I really miss her.
Thank you. Do you want to share some last maybe words, thoughts? I think you're a case in point in her legacy. I think when we talk about her legacy, we're talking about girls who get interested in sciences, get interested in mathematics, see that path in front of them, and I think you're an example of what everybody hopes she left behind.
Yeah, maybe the last thing I can say, I hope, I mean, as Dr. Tabesh said, many people, women, Iranian, any scientist can be inspired by the story of Maryam, and I hope women, especially girls in Iran, I hope we can see more girls from Iran. They discover their potential and they can find the path they're really passionate about.
Thank you both so much. And thank you for joining us this evening. We've spent a couple of hours to know Maryam, not just as a mathematician, but as a student, as a teacher, as a friend, as a mother, and as someone whose life went way beyond what perhaps she even imagined it would become. I think her mathematical discoveries will continue to transform the field for generations, but also, like Dr. Tabesh mentioned, perhaps her biggest legacy was her character and her personality and the courage that she gave others, especially young girls and women, to go above and beyond for what you love and to persevere through difficulties, through setbacks, 2 years, 3 years of setbacks. That's huge. And to work hard and to always dream big. So I think that's really her lasting legacy. I think another kind of takeaway from her life, which is profoundly human, is that even the most brilliant minds are vulnerable. We lost her too soon to a disease that still impacts millions of families around the world. And for us in life sciences, in medicine, it's also a call to action to continue to look for better treatments, earlier diagnosis, perhaps one day a cure, so that brilliant minds, dreamers, the next generation of creators have the opportunity to live to their full potential. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll hope the memory of Maryam Mirzakhani continues in the next generations.
Maybe let's thank great organizer. Yes, some of them are there. I don't know the names.
Mahdokh Jan.
And Madison, you did a great job for us.
Thank you so much for sharing the amazing stories. It's deeply emotional. I know for you, for us, it's just one of those things. It's just hard. All right, so I just want to also put a plug in for Hiva Mohammadzadeh and Yossi Samsami, sorry, my notes didn't get updated, who will be joining on the stage, presenting from ISC. So please give them a round of applause as they come up stage.
Hi everyone, I'm Hiva.
Salam Bahamagi. Hello, my name's Yossi Samsami. Thank you to Plug and Play, Persian Tech Network, Dr. Tabish for having us here today. We're only going to take a few minutes of your time. We are Iranian students of California, and we're here today to talk to you about a very important initiative that ISC has launched just recently. Before we get into the details, just a little bit about ISC. Our mission is to empower students and alumni of Iranian heritage for the benefit of the community at large. So within the Iranian diaspora, making sure that our students and alumni connect and are able to gather for the benefit of the community at large. And so a little bit about ISC. We are an independent registered 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are actually registered as Iranian Student Council. But we were founded in 2020. And who remembers here when Iran, shut down the internet back in 2019? I know there's been many times, but back in 2019. So when they shut down the internet in 2019, it was during the time that students were applying to universities and colleges in Iran, right? Just the applications were open. The university, Iran had shut down the internet, and the students were not able to make the applications and apply in time. So students across California came together. There was Telegram channels, group chats everywhere that we need to tell the universities to extend the deadline. This is unacceptable. This is how ISC was formed. A bunch of students came together and were able to extend the deadlines of universities across California and beyond. With that, ISC was formed. We are fully run by volunteers, alumni, and students. We are funded by donations of alumni and community leaders, and we're dedicated to empowering students and alumni within the Iranian diaspora across California and beyond. A little bit about our programs. We have cultivated 3 core programs within the past couple of years of ISC. And one of our programs is the PAL program. It's a mentorship program that we have launched just last year. We actually have a few of our pals in the room. Can you stand up, pals? I see a couple of pals. We have Nikki, we have Amir, I think I saw Nima. We have Farhang is right there. We have a couple of pals in the room. If I missed you, I'm sorry. We have pals, so these are professionals within the Iranian community that are supporting students who need support, undergrad, graduates that need some advice, whether it's for college applications, universities, professional job interviews, etc. Then we have our community circle events. Our community circles are a way for people to network. We bring keynote speakers like Dr. Tabish himself, Ali Qudsi, Dr. Ardahali, Pejman Nozad. We bring these speakers so students can connect, meet with them, and network with one another. And we establish these community circles. We have 4 a year, 2 in Northern California, 2 in Southern California. And then last but not least, we have our Trail of Lights. Our Trail of Lights is a webinar series that we hold once a month, and it's for students for free to come, attend, and learn about different topics, like how to apply to MBA school, or we had Nikki do one on product management. So those are our 3 different programs. So this is a little bit about ISC. I appreciate you guys for having us, and I'm going to pass it along to Hiva to discuss more about what we're doing here today. Sorry, not the mic.
Hi everyone, so I'm Hiva. I'm doing my master's here at Stanford in computer science, and I have a question for everyone. How many of you guys immigrated from Iran? Yeah, that's what I thought. And how many of you guys came here with the goal of achieving your American dream through getting your master's or PhD in the United States. Yeah. A lot of you guys applied for visas and got a job and stayed in the US to achieve that dream. But imagine that you couldn't do that. That's what's happening right now in our community. Because of the visa bans and the USCIS holds, a lot of the master's students and recent graduates are facing this ban. So I'm here to talk about ISC Emergency Fund, which we have established. So we've been getting emails and requests from a lot of students and recent graduates that need emergency funding and urgent financial hardships. And we couldn't stand and just watch them do, so we are launching this ISC Students and Alumni Emergency Fund. It is created to respond to this recent hold, which has left a lot of these students without work authorization and having to leave United States and not be able to work in the US. So it is created to give them very small token of emergency fund to keep them in the United States. So we launched this around 3 weeks ago, and already are seeing 241 applicants. These are applications that came in within the first 48 hours that we launched this fund. And every single one of these applications is a story. We are reading the stories, and it's a person who is living in their car instead of going to their summer internship at Google and not being able to afford to have housing in the, like, have housing. There's a family of 4 that have to live in a 1-bedroom apartment with another family and facing medical expenses of their children, and they can't afford that. And we also are actually seeing people who are self-deporting to keep their statuses and not being recorded so that they can later come back, and they are asking us for money for $1,000 to just be able to afford the flight back home. So why we're here today is we're able to raise $29,000, and we're only able to help 25 of these applicants. And this is really hard on our selection committee. Imagine they're reading these applications and they have to choose between those stories that I just mentioned, who gets funding and who doesn't. And that's why we're here to ask for help. So, and many of these applicants actually are just like Maryam Mirzakhani, who we honored today, who are coming from Sharif University for their PhDs here. Imagine Maryam Mirzakhani was not able to get visa to become a professor at Stanford the way that she did. So these are the future researchers. These are the future of our Iranian diaspora. These are the future scientists. We need to invest in the future. Imagine being in those shoes. I mean, everyone here raised their hands, so I'm assuming you were in those shoes. Imagine that you were. And so I want everyone here to please take out your phone and scan this QR code on the right side and help us raise. Go to our GoFundMe and raise. And if you want to support one student and donate $1,000 or more, please come find me, and we'll give you like a donation card, which will have access to our Zelle. And also, if you're willing to like write a check or anything, let us know. And if you want to hear more, we're keeping a lot of transparency. So if you want to join our communication channel and learn about how we're raising and who is getting what, please join us. So this is for the future. Let's make sure people like Dr. Mirzakhani can stay here and build a future in the Iranian diaspora. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. What a situation. I hope everybody can help, and we can support the future generation of innovators here. I think we left out the Q&A section, so I just want to invite anybody who has a question, a comment, wants to share a thought about the memoir to please raise their hands. Come on. Do you want to?
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to, going back to Maryam Mirzakhani, I just want to put her work in perspective because my cousin worked with her at Harvard, and my cousin is not from the same field. He is from physics department at Harvard. He worked under Kamran Wafa, who was here, and his picture was also in there. There was a dinner at Mr. Kamran Wafa's house. So my cousin came one day here visiting Stanford, and I asked him, so what's this fuss about what Dr. Mirzakhani has done? Why do you work with her? And he just said it in an impressive way to me that what Maryam Mirzakhani has done is she added a tool in the toolbox of mathematics that is being used by the quantum physics physician, especially his name was mentioned, David Wheaton, who's like a Albert Einstein of quantum physics these days. And his theorem, David Wheaton's theorem, was proved in an elegant way by Dr. Maryam Mirzakhani's work. And essentially, the big quest in the world of physics is unified field theory from the 1900, from Max Planck until today to Dr. Wheaton. If we want to have a unified field theory, gravity and all the other physical forces, we have to prove it that it works. And one theory to prove that is M-string theory. And Dr. Maryam Mirzakhani, through her closed geodesics, as Professor Torkeman mentioned, we have to know these minimum ways that goes around these circles, and in closed controlled environment you need to know the numbers, and you need to know what the minimum number of geodesics is, the polynomial. So unfortunately, up until this moment, no, I wouldn't say unfortunately, it has been used to disprove some of the biggest theories to unified field theory. So I just wanted to explain that her theory goes beyond mathematics, is being used at the highest level of our pursuit for this elusive goal of unified field theory. It is amazing what she's done. And she just created this extra tool in the toolbox of mathematics that will forever be used if we ever get to that point of unified field theory, because it has to, pass her test. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Really
Thank
appreciate it.
you so much for
Thank you.
sharing. That's incredible. Fantastic. Any other comments, questions? Thank you so much, and have a wonderful night.